Welcome to the Transport Sector Retirement Fund, where members are the heartbeat of our fund. If you die before you retire from the fund, your dependents and/or nominees will receive a benefit consisting of your fund credit at the time of your death, plus 3 times your annual salary as a cash lump sum, provided your contributions are up to date and paid on time. The fund is managed by a board of trustees who are responsible for the management of the fund. The board of trustees are also responsible to use their discretion to distribute members' death benefits fairly. The discretion must be applied within the boundaries set by Section 37C of the Pension Funds Act that provides clear instructions on how these benefits must be distributed. The trustees urge you to complete a nomination of beneficiary form to identify all your dependents and thereafter to update it annually or when your circumstances change. Please ask your employer for a copy of the form. The beneficiary nomination form is not binding on the trustees, but it does serve as an important guide in the event of a member's death. The Pension Funds Act stipulates that if a fund cannot trace any dependents of the deceased member within 12 months, then the death benefit must be paid to the nominees as specified on the nomination form. However, in the event that there are dependents and nominees, a pension fund must allocate the death benefit to such dependent or nominee in such proportions as the board deem equitable. This fair distribution of members' death benefits is one of the most challenging tasks facing the trustees. A dependent is a member's spouse, child, or any other person who was in fact dependent on the member, or a person whom the member would have been legally liable to maintain in the future had he or she been alive. A nominee is someone who the member nominated on their beneficiary nomination form to receive a portion of their benefit. They may also be a dependent, but not always. The fund follows a 4-step process in order to pay death benefits. Step 1. The trustees try to identify everyone who depended on the member for financial support, as well as anyone else who was legally dependent on the deceased member and any other dependent. The fund does, however, consider everyone that the member has listed on their beneficiary nomination form. If there are other people who relied on support from the member and were not listed on the beneficiary form, then the fund may need to wait up to 12 months before sharing out the death benefit to allow time for these dependents to come forward. The fund relies on the member's employer, on colleagues, on family, and friends to help identify everyone who relied financially on the member. It really speeds up the process once the fund is sure they know about all the potential dependents. Step 2. We need to understand how each person relied financially on the member and how they were related to the member. We need all kinds of information like ID documents, marriage and birth certificates, the beneficiary nomination form, and financial details about dependents who wish to be considered. The completed death claim forms and the supporting sworn affidavits are needed. Step 3. The fund shares out the benefit fairly and reasonably to the people who were actually dependent on the member for support and who would have been dependent on the deceased in future. The fund does consider the member's written wishes, but may need to act differently to obey the law. Step 4. Finally, we are in a position to pay out the death benefit. Usually, we pay each person's share of the benefit into their own bank account. However, if the benefit is for a child, we may put the money into a special beneficiary fund so that it can be paid out monthly or annually to the guardian to take care of the child. Remember, we have to deduct tax where applicable from the benefit paid to each person. We provide a benefit payment letter to each person together with a copy of the relevant tax form. If any of the dependents or nominees have tax issues with SARS or don't have a tax number, it may delay the payment of the benefit. Please contact the fund if you need any additional information.
Yeah.